With this time, I go for mine. I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I go for mine. I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky.
Hey everybody, it's Jason. We're back. Another This Week in Startups bonus edition. I've got a great guest here. My friend Kimbal Musk is here from OneRiot. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks
you
a
just
lot.
happened to be in town with the fam, doing something. Business, pleasure, a little bit of both?
Birthday weekend.
Birthday weekend. Whose birthday? Yours?
It's my birthday, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice, very nice. How old now?
I'm 23 going on
23.
55, you know.
So this whole Twitter search thing has become pretty big, and you guys are sort of in the middle of it. Tell everybody, what is OneRiot and why should they care?
Sure.
You know, I have Twitter search, right? That works pretty well for me, so why should I care about this?
Sure, so OneRiot is basically real-time search for the web. If you did a search on Google, for example, it's kind of like searching a library. It's a phenomenal resource, but you're seeing a picture of the web from a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago. Results don't really change fundamentally. Real-time search is all about what's going on today, what's going on right now on the web. So if you did a search for the LA Philharmonic, which is there's a new conductor coming in about 10 days, amazing new conductor. If you want to keep up to date what's going on with the LA Philharmonic, Damal coming in, what he's all about. OneRiot will talk about the iPhone app that he just released some videos of some of his productions, and it's sort of a reflection of the web as it is today. Real-time search is what's going on right now.
So instead of LA Philharmonic coming up first, maybe a news article or a blog post or a new static web page would come up, and you guys would know to index that above LA Philharmonic. How? Sure.
So that's a great question. So we look at what people are sharing on the internet. And if you think about the old days where people would link to a website from a blog or from another website, the new way of thinking is that people are going to share that link on Twitter. They're going to dig that link. They're going to share it on Facebook and other environments. What OneRiot does is we look at sources from across the real-time web, Twitter being a major part of it, where we see what people are sharing, and using that information, we can re-rank content in real time.
Right.
So we can see that the top content right now for the LA Philharmonic is the iPhone app.
Right. So here I have actually the Google search, if you pull up my screen, for LA Philharmonic on Google. Obviously, Google's going to nail the first result, as they should. And a couple of other sites, the Wikipedia page, all Hollywood Bowl, all good stuff. A couple of news stories here, something about the microsite celebrating Gustavo. But then if I go on to OneRiot, I have Music Center celebrates Dumadel, which is, I guess, something that was shared, I guess, on Twitter. Yep. So I see 4 shares here.
So if you open that up,
yeah,
you'll get a, sorry, to the 4 shares. Click
on
the
4 shares.
4 shares. You'll see that we have 2 tweets, so we can actually show you those two tweets, what people said about it. And the OneRiot shares is we have a panel of users that share what's important to them as they surf the web with our OneRiot toolbars. And that helps us decide what's important out there.
So the people, you're actually watching user behavior. So here, just zooming in here, the 4 shares that you have, 2 are from a tweet, and the other 2 signals of quality are people using a OneRiot toolbar. So there's a bunch of people out there with a toolbar.
It's kind of like a compete panel.
Right. And how many people are in that panel? Is this like 100 people, 1,000 people,
no, we've had
people?
about 3 million people have downloaded the toolbar over the many
Wow.
years. Yeah, we have the top MySpace toolbar on Firefox and on IE, and then we have a top Facebook toolbar for IE as well.
And what's their reason for downloading it?
Well, it's kind of the top functionality for people who want to stay in touch with on MySpace or Facebook through their browser. And it's an opt-in. It's a double opt-in if they'd like to also share their activity with us. And we actually get quite a few people involved.
Interesting. And so I remember the original name of the company people might remember was Medium.
Yeah.
MED.IUM
yep.
something. And the idea there was, and I remember downloading and saying, this is really interesting, but perhaps a little too complicated.
It was basically a browse version of the real-time web where you could actually see the content come up in real time. And it was an exciting concept, but very hard for people to adapt to that way of browsing. And
maybe too soon.
Too soon, maybe. I think it's definitely going to happen at some point. But what we found was when we put a search box in there, the growth just went through the roof.
Right.
And people wanted that interface. They
so explain what the original idea was, because I think it's interesting on a show like this, in Startups, to talk about where you started and then where you finished, because it's obviously you started in one place and now it's changed a lot. And that's what good entrepreneurs do. I mean, Microsoft started building Basic Compiler, right?
Sure.
And Sony built their first, you know what Sony's first product was?
No, I didn't know.
It was a rice cooker. Yeah. It was. I mean, they basically started with a rice cooker, then they went into tape recorders.
Yeah.
So I mean, if they, it would not be what they are today.
Yeah.
I mean, the Walkman would have been the Rice Man or something. So you started, and the concept was, I'm just trying to see if I can say it in plain English without the buzzwords. You could see where your friends were surfing on the web in real time.
Right.
Via a sidebar in your browser, and in the sidebar, you'd get like sort of a map and see your friends in like little clusters and what websites they were on.
Yep.
And so I loaded this and I started using it, and I said, this is fascinating. And it gives you that sort of like, wow, we're actually solitary, or what's seemingly solitary, surfing the web, is actually not solitary.
Right.
There's a lot going on here. And did users, when you, take us through how you decided this wasn't going to be a big enough business, or people weren't used to it? Was there just users would start using it and stop, or that there were just the people who were using it were the sort of a small group of people, didn't get mass adoption? How did you know? Because it was about a year or two you did that, right? A year and a half? Yeah,
about almost 2 years ago, actually over 2 years ago, we launched Medium, and what was quite fascinating is we got an incredibly positive response from users, and we got an enormous adoption of the product. But the problem was not that. The problem was once the actual interface. I think anyone, in startups will appreciate this. The interface itself was a fundamental challenge. People didn't want to use a sidebar.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to use it.
Yeah,
and
sidebars are annoying,
no matter how good of an interesting product, you just couldn't get people to embrace that. And then there was another problem with Internet Explorer back in those days. If you opened up a sidebar and you closed that sidebar, it was actually really hard for people to find out how to reopen it. Wow. And so we really struggled with fundamental limitations of the browser itself.
So it's actually like really tiny little things that actually...
It's unbelievable how, and it just kills adoption. There's a great saying that every single page you put in front of a user drops your growth by 50%. So if you come into a home page of any product, say Twitter, and you got to sign in, or you got to fill a form or whatever, every single page drops your user base by 50%. Well, try that with, when you actually have a browser that can't even deal with that stuff.
Right.
We found our growth was always going to be stunted by the fact that we were reliant on those browsers.
And so you're sitting there in a company with, 20, 30 people working there, and you guys are based in Colorado.
In Colorado. We have an office in the Bay Area as well.
Yeah. So you're sitting there with your 20, 30 people, and how long before you sort of, that early warning signal went off, like, this isn't working, at least not to the level we want it to, we need to make a change? And then before you had this sort of discussion with your staff, was the staff coming to you saying, I'm not sure this isn't working, or they sort of being good soldiers and not telling you what they really thought? Because I've seen this happen in my companies, like where we have a mistake and maybe people don't speak up.
Sure.
And it's sort of this awkward moment, like, what we're doing is not working.
Right.
And nobody's saying it, and then once somebody says it, everybody's like, oh my God, yes, it's totally not working. I'm so glad you brought it up. How did that go down?
Yeah, I think, one of my strengths and one of my flaws, I'll be honest, as an entrepreneur is I expect results very quickly.
Right. And
if I don't get them, I assume that I'm doing something wrong.
Right.
So for me, it was not a case of, let's review this in 3 months. I mean, from day one when we launched, the uptick didn't match the usage. So we were getting, in 1 month we hit almost 500,000 downloads, and yet on a daily basis we were getting thousands of people to use our product.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Right.
Right. Something doesn't work there.
Right.
And so that was something that was broken. And so we did spend a good 6 months trying to solve the technical problem. It was very hard, frankly. And we did solve the technical problem of some of the challenges people were having. But at the end of the day, from my perspective, whether it's a strength or a flaw, the alarm went off 3 days off the launch.
Yeah.
And that made me start looking at alternatives. And when we actually put our prototype for the search product out 3 months after we launched Medium, so it was that quickly we responded to the lack of usage we were seeing. And then when the prototype was out in the search, it was amazing to see what we should have seen, right?
Right.
This sort of growth and this blossoming of utility. And
it's interesting, you look at something like Twitter.
Yep.
Explosive growth right now.
Yep.
It's the biggest story in tech. And raised $100 million last week at $1 billion valuation. I mean, incredible. And their traffic went like this for 2 years, and then like that in year 3, or something to that effect. And that first year was SMS only.
Yeah.
It was no website.
Exactly.
When I started using it, they signed me up. Ev or Biz signed me up on their phone, and it was only on my phone. You can only do it through SMS, and I didn't even know what a shortcode was at the time 3 years ago. So there's something to sticking to it. But you're impatient, so do you ever feel like maybe you're missing opportunities because?
No, there's truth to that.
Yeah.
I think though, if I had been Twitter, I would have seen the problem. In the Twitter's case, they saw the problem that SMS was slowing down their growth, and they could fix the problem by applying it to a website. We in a sense did the same thing. We saw the problem was a technical limitation of these browsers, and how do we get it out of the browser? And so just make it a traditional website. And so from our perspective, from my perspective, I could argue we did something similar in terms of trying to find the right way people will use our technology.
Right.
The key point, though, is the technology we built was phenomenal. A real-time index for the web is, never been done before.
Right. And pretty hard to do.
It's unbelievably hard to do. And scale. Anything's easy without scale. This is scaling to we have, I think, peaking at about 50 million share events a day.
Wow.
The real-time web, people have no, and what's most interesting is a year ago, maybe 1 million share events a day.
Wow. And so now Twitter has just grown so quickly.
Twitter's only one component. There's Facebook, but the growth is out of control.
How do you deal with spam? Because on Twitter now everybody's sort of hip to, if you put your links up there, you're going to do great. I know when I click on the sidebar with the trending topics, like when TechCrunch 50 trended last week or two weeks ago, you click on TC50, and then I would see all these people like, oh my God, I made $300 in grocery coupons. Right. And then I saw another one, oh my God, I made $300 grocery coupons. And I said, do we have a company here in the demo pit that's giving away coupons or something? And I click through it, I'm like, oh my God, this is somebody who's built robots, they watch the trending topics, and they insert themselves. Brilliant. How do you get those people out, or is it you can't, or do you
I think OneRiot has probably some of the most advanced spam prevention technology out there for Twitter. Twitter is incredibly easy to spam, and what we do is we have multiple layers. So one is obviously we only care about what links people are sharing. So first of all, we crawl that page, we dechrome it, fix it up, determine if it's spam, porn, things like that. But the next level down is actually what there's two interesting things in Twitter, which is there's a spoof spam, which is actually quite popular.
Spoof spam. So you're pretending to be a real person and you're not?
No, you're this is a great. So basically,
I know spoofing. You're pretending you're somebody else, like spoof email.
No. It's actually intended for humor. So you know that the Iran election, everyone's talking about the Iran election, and you tweet something that is, this is a picture of someone getting, beaten down on the street, and the picture is actually a picture of a naked guy.
Yeah, right.
It's like, and that is
okay. That's the 12-year-old.
Exactly, just having fun with users.
Yes.
And so
that's the dig crowd or the what's the 4chan crowd? They're just effing with people.
They're effing with people, and it's funny to watch, but it totally messes up your search results.
Absolutely. Right.
And then the other one is the spam rings, where that they're trying to do is they get a group, or probably a fake group of 50 to 100 accounts that will
have a conversation with
each other about a link and try and elevate content and sort of real-time SEO, so to speak.
Right.
But it's total spam. And so a lot of that technology we're kind of ahead. And one of the ways we do it is we have an internal real-time ranking of the most influential people on Twitter.
So you can just say, like, we know that anybody below this amount of followers or this follower ratio.
If this person is creating something that's really that hype, well, let's double check it before making it. So there's things like that.
So did this URL actually wind up? Did Scoble or any of these top people actually do that URL as well? Because you're not going to get caught up in it. It's real.
Exactly right.
That's very interesting. So here I'm looking at I just did the biggest spam term ever, Viagra. I think I spelled it right. And here, if you look on the screen, the first one is an Ars Technica story and has 566 shares. I think that's an exceptional number of shares. Oh, I see. And the shares include dig, tweets, and that's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
So are the shares equally weighted? Because a dig can get 3,000 digs. Sure. Are they 10 to 1 to a tweet?
We have actually an algorithm internally that actually decides on a content topic by content topic basis, how to weight dig, how to weight tweets, and how to weight OneRiot.
Got it. Interesting. So a OneRiot person, though, chances are they're going to be a little bit
They're usually better because they actually went to the page.
Right. We can see how long they stayed on the page.
We can see whether they scrolled. We can really, and these are trustworthy people because they've been with us for a while. Right. So we will always.
Do the people who are like under 6 months get weighted differently than the people who've been over a year? Like,
it's usually based on their surfing habits. We can usually tell pretty quickly if someone is a spammer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're hanging out on one side too much, maybe.
Yeah, exactly right.
Interesting. And the OneRiot users, you actually know how many seconds they're on a page.
Yep, absolutely.
So does the number of seconds on a page, is that a valid measurement? Is it
absolutely? So what we do is we look at this at the length of the page.
Right.
And video is one thing we do fascinating. So for real-time search on video, you want to be able to tell people what the hottest content is. But there's a lot of content that people will share, and someone will go check out the video and leave after 10 seconds. This isn't so great. So what we're able to do with video is we can see, this video is 3 minutes long. The average duration people watch it for 2.5 minutes. That's a very highly rated video.
Got it.
Only 10 seconds, well, probably not so much. Only 1 second, it's probably broken.
Right. Interesting. And so looking at this seems like something, your business of searching the real-time web, I'm wondering if this is enough to get me to switch off of Google, right? This is the big thing we all face. Mahalo included. Wikia search before Jimmy Wales shut it down. Utter failure. Did it for a year. I don't know if you remember Wikia search was going to change everything. But, I mean, he's not a real entrepreneur, so he just gave up. But guys like us, we actually try for more than a year. We have an ongoing joke. We call Jimmy Wales, Jimmy Fowles on the show. So anytime anybody's on, and having two search companies that have actually fought hard, both our companies have fought hard to try to carve a niche for ourselves, it's actually really interesting to see you guys do something that actually provides like real value. It's always good when the host doesn't turn his phone off. That's always terrible. It's probably something like a fan calling, like, hey, I'm watching you on TV. Let me turn that off. What a disaster. Okay. But it's working. I mean, are a lot of people using it?
Sure. I mean, I think your question on how do you go up against Google? I mean, we don't really compete with Google.
Right.
And the problem is, it's still such a powerful brand that you say the word search and everyone goes, well, why wouldn't I just use Google?
Right.
And the truth is, it's different results, completely different experience. When you use OneRiot, you really want to get the pulse of the web on any subject.
Right.
Google's not going to give you that. But so what we do is, in order to grow and build our brand over time, is we actually work through our partners. So we have a OneRiot partner network that basically people can take our search results and build them into their existing experience.
Right.
Quite a few search engines have built OneRiot results into their results. I'll be talking to you about it.
Yeah, no, actually, I think it would work well in our results as well.
And it's great because it adds a lot of value. It doesn't really compete with the other search results. It's
different. It's sort of like it's somewhere between news and regular search, because you do get the little news box, but the news box doesn't take into account a new page on a regular site. It just takes into account news.
Exactly.
So
it's news, and not only that, it's usually, if you go to Google News, it's basically the New York Times and
AP, Reuters,
and
it's a small collection.
I mean, one of the best examples, when Michael Jackson passed away, OneRiot was the first to break the TMZ article on Michael Jackson, and the reason is because the triggers at Google just they take a while.
Right. And they're not watching
And they're not
Twitter.
watching TMZ that much. They'll put something on the New York Times way higher than they put something on TMZ. And the truth is, what people were sharing was the TMZ article. So you let people decide what the actual powerful content is, and that's real-time search.
So let me ask, we got a lot of people in the audience. Let me ask the people in the audience to go use OneRiot right now. OneRiot. It's pretty easy to spell. And it's O-N-E, not the number one. And go do a couple searches and go tweet which searches you're doing and put #TWiST at the end, and which ones work exceptionally well, maybe even which ones don't work so well, so we can sort of discuss where this sort of new search works and where it breaks down. I just did a search here for This Week in Startups, and it's interesting. It's got the people who are tweeting about stuff, and this is all the new stuff that people have been talking about just over a couple of days. And how do you think these results will differ from just doing search.twitter.com? And they can't search there.
Sure.
Like what's my value proposition for coming here over that?
Well, what we do is we do have the tweets in our results as well. So the most recent tweets will be in our results.
Right.
But we blend that with the content that people are sharing. If you make a blog post about This Week in Startups, that'll be the top results.
So you start with the link as opposed to the tweet.
Exactly.
So that's really what it is. If you're looking for the tweets,
Go to
search.twitter.com is great, but if you want somebody to take out the tweets and just put the tweets second to the links, that's what you're doing, consolidating it all.
If you want to see the content of the web you should be checking out, that's what OneRiot does.
Right. Interesting. And so what is the status of the company? I saw recently you guys raised more money. I mean, this company's raised a lot of money so far.
Yeah, I mean, building a real-time infrastructure is incredibly hard. I mean, that's what we learned at Medium was when we made the switch, we didn't switch to a different business. We took the technology we had and said, how can we, and this is a lesson for any startup out there, you want to take the assets you built and say, okay, something's not working. Well, how can we take 90% of these assets and apply it in a direction that will work?
Right.
And we built this incredible real-time index, unbelievably hard to scale. And how did we apply it? Well, let's apply it to search, and we tested it quickly before we made a large investment. We tested it very well.
Right.
And then we applied that technology to it. So it's they say.
So lucky for you that real-time web actually was sort of happening as a trend while you were doing real-time sort of surfing the web together.
Exactly. Our vision was people want this. They want this experience. We didn't necessarily predict how big Twitter was going to get. And Twitter, the difference between Twitter and Facebook is their open API. Right. So you can't get this data off Facebook without using
scraping technology,
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So if you really want to get the linked data off of Facebook today, do you poll any of it yet, or you're working on it?
We have methods of getting a broad audience of finding out what's hot on the web, but nothing. We don't go to any of the Facebook APIs, but there are other ways of finding out what people in general are interested in.
Interesting. Is it those people who have public-facing profiles? You can scan the top users or something?
Yeah, it is.
See what links there.
Yeah, a lot of it's confidential in how we do it. But basically, the idea is we don't want a purely Twitter bias. We want to be able to look at a broader audience, and so we have quite a few confidential sources that we use that are very powerful in helping us tell us what's actually important.
Other toolbar data, maybe even people.
Other toolbar data. There's quite a few examples that will probably come to light over the next.
That's great.
6 to 12 months.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can probably just launch a lot of instances on EC2 of like Windows machines and go scrape the data off of Facebook. But Facebook wants everybody to create for their platform. It's sort of, I mean, it's almost like Zuckerberg is getting the sort of metaphor of him as Bill Gates. He's actually starting to earn or channel a little too much because he asks everybody to build for his platform, but is not willing to give the data out.
Yeah.
It's sort of
doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense to me, and it's very sort of Machiavellian.
I mean, I think the reason why Twitter's growth is so phenomenal is because they had this open data system.
Right.
They are not just one company. They are 11,000 companies building on this incredible open data.
Right.
And what Facebook is doing is they're saying, well, you can do it on top of the social graph, but you can't do it on top of the data. And you're very limited if you do that.
Yeah, I mean, the social graph is great, but even if you use the social graph, they have all these requirements. You got to put the Facebook logo here. You got to do this. I mean, it's like, really, guys? I mean, like, we're building these applications for your platform to play games inside of it. We're giving you our content. It's pretty amazing. I think long term, Twitter might be the bigger play. What do you think?
I think I always bet against walled gardens.
Right.
And Facebook is a walled garden. So it's not to say, I don't want to predict that Twitter is going to beat Facebook, but I don't see a world where walled gardens stick around.
It's interesting. Maybe they're got the hedge garden for a little bit, and then they're going to...
That's what I mean. I think if
open up as they go.
I believe they're going to open up as they go. Because,
they have to.
I mean, everyone knows that walled gardens eventually fail. So if they don't, then they're obviously reading the wrong books. Interesting.
And so... the company just raised a C round or something, and so that was $15 million?
That was 7.
7, okay. Yeah. And you raised originally 15.
Originally 15, exactly.
And so the company's been going for
3 years.
3 years, and what's next for the company?
Next is just scale. I mean, basically, we're now growing at leaps and bounds, and we now need to take our scaling of the real-time web to the next level, not just from the perspective of number of searches a day, which is growing really nicely, but also the volume of data coming into the system. Our vision is a time when you'll be able to do a full search of the web in real time. Right now, it's very focused on the social web because that's really where the value add is and what people understand. They want to know what people are sharing on Twitter. They want to know what's hot on the LA Philharmonic and otherwise. But over time, as you imagine getting enough data in the system, you can do the whole web.
And so how do you get all this data? I mean, Twitter has the API.
Yep.
So you just plug into their API and suck it all down, and then you have to store it all? How long do you store it for?
Sure.
How do you process it? I mean, this has got to be a huge amount of data. What is just even the connection to Twitter? Is that taking up like you know, multiple megabits just to connect to them? I mean, how do they pay for it? Are they using the GIMP thing, or?
Well, we have. It's funny. We actually, you know, when we started this business, we looked at it from the perspective of really trying to serve up the results as the challenge, and actually, what we discovered is that half the challenge is getting the data in.
Right.
And you know, there's this problem that you face is every single solution you have only lasts a few months because the growth is so phenomenal.
Right.
And so we have a team that is dedicated to working with APIs like the Twitter API, and I mean, we consider ourselves probably we're best in the business in terms of getting the data out of the Twitter API. We're very happy with what they. I think the current status of the Twitter API is actually very good, given what we can get out of it. And it's a phenomenal challenge, bringing all that in, but not just bringing it in, but you see what links are being shared. You got to crawl the page. You got to despam it, deporn it, and then you got to serve it up all within less than a minute.
Wow.
That's really hard.
It's a pretty amazing process. How big is the server infrastructure for this? Is this thousands of servers, hundreds of servers to do this?
No, so that's quite interesting. So there's the traditional search you think about in terms of the size of the index, right?
Right.
And 50 billion pages, 40 billion pages, whatever.
Yeah.
In the real-time web, you actually have a different approach. You think about it in terms of time.
Right.
How far back do you want to go?
Ah.
And so basically, we basically have a server farm per day. So how many days you want to go back? Well, that's a server farm. Wow. So we only go back currently one day because our goal is to serve up the real-time results. Ah. And as our technology gets better, we'll be able to maybe be more efficient about that. But it's a search
so you
is a
can
very
really
expensive
basically
business.
do one day at a time.
Yeah.
And so that means there's this huge opportunity to see the trend for 10 days or for 100 days. The real-time web over 100 days. How would you approach that? Do you just take the top searches and store them, or is it just too much data for anybody to do?
Well, you can get much more efficient about it, but you don't also have to keep it all in real time. The real time part is what really we're focused on, and that challenge of giving you a picture of the web as it is. So that's why we look back at going back a day and think, it's actually okay. What we would do if we decided to go back 2 weeks or a month is probably create a different architecture that leveraged that better.
Right.
Because in real time, you really need to deliver the right answer right now, and so you don't have to go back 2 days. It's not as important.
Interesting. And so what's the deal with the partners? You have partners who will syndicate these results, and you just hope to get a link back or some SEO juice, or is it a revenue share? Do you include ads in the thing? Or open-ended for now? Or?
Yeah, we have our partners that are leveraging our results, and it helps it basically brings a better user experience for their users. And then there are things we'll be doing over the next, actually we'll be announcing something next week which will help our partners monetize using the real-time web, and we'll talk about that.
Oh, really?
Later today, yeah.
Oh, well, there's only like 180 people watching right now. I'm sure they wouldn't retweet it. What, include some opportunity to do real-time ads or something? Or?
We'll talk about it next week.
No announcement for you guys, sorry. Who else is doing good stuff in search, do you think, when you look across the space? Does anybody impress you, particularly right now, Cosmics or any of this stuff out there, or do you think it's just...
it's such green fields in real-time search that we're all working really hard to make a difference. And none of us, I don't believe, are competing with the end user yet. The end user still doesn't even understand what real-time search is, and shows like this help get the word out. Yeah. So I think, I love this early stage. This is like search back in 95, 96, 97. I mean, everyone was sort of competing, but the truth is everyone was actually just trying to solve the problem. And to me, this is the best time to be in the business.
Now, this is your second, third company as an entrepreneur. So what was the first big company you did?
Sure. So I've been involved in quite a few startups, but my first one was Zip2. I did it out of school with my brother, Elon.
Yep, sure.
And we sold that in 99. That was an incredible run. That was basically 95 to 99. So
the New York Times?
No, we sold it to Compaq.
Oh, Compaq.
Compaq owned AltaVista, and they wanted to merge our company and AltaVista to create a Yahoo killer, because we were basically all about content and the portals and so forth, and they were the search engine.
You guys were like a content management system or something?
Yeah, we were basically the most advanced content management technology in Web 1.0. Awesome. And so it was a great exit for us. And then I was an angel investor to PayPal with my brother, being involved there. I was a startup CEO for a company called Everdream, which is actually my cousins founded it, which are it's a little family mafia going on, but lots of fun. And that had a great exit actually 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And now I sit on the board of Tesla Motors and on the board of SpaceX and OneRiot. I have a restaurant kitchen. Which is,
now that's an interesting thing. So after PayPal, I guess that was, and after that whole sort of adventure, down market, you're living in Colorado. You left the Valley.
Yeah.
You were living in the Valley, went to Colorado.
Well, no, it's actually quite funny. I feel myself pretty lucky. So I left the Valley and I went to New York and I studied cooking.
And you started cooking in New York.
I studied there and I started.
So you make all this money and then you decide, screw it, I'm going to go learn how to cook.
Exactly.
And where'd you go? The Culinary Institute?
French Culinary Institute.
French Culinary Institute.
And graduated from there and decided I was going to do a restaurant. Started the restaurant and I moved out in 2002 to work on a restaurant in Boulder, Colorado. Got the restaurant going. It's turned out to be one of the very, very successful
This is the kitchen,
ventures.
which
the
is
kitchen in
like
Boulder, Colorado.
People talk about you have to it doesn't take reservations, and you have to wait online for a long time, and it's like always sold out, but it's very egalitarian.
We call it a community restaurant, and It's a new concept. It's sort of high-end, but it's very casual. We work with local farmers. We're considered one of the greenest restaurants in the country. We've sort of pioneered a lot of the wind power in restaurants, and we don't have any garbage. Everything goes back to the farmers in the form of compost.
Wow.
All of our tables are made from the wooden rafters in the building. I mean, we just wanted to create an example.
Right.
And what it became is a restaurant that, really, the weeks we'll do 4,000 people a week in that restaurant. I mean, it's just incredible.
4,000 seats?
And it's not a big restaurant.
No, that's what I've heard. It's like a really hot ticket in Colorado.
And so it's this thing which
Boulder.
became much bigger than I ever expected. And what was so fun about it, in retrospect, was I got back in the software business in 2006. And I got back in, and I come back and see my friends. Hey guys, I'm back in here. How's it going? And they all have this look on their face, like they've just gone through the nuclear wasteland of 2000 to 2005. Which is brutal.
Yep.
Brutal time to be a startup.
Yeah.
So I didn't really experience that.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. Now I'm getting to get a feel for what it's like to run a software startup in, possibly the worst recession in almost 100 years. So. Yeah. Which is an interesting challenge,
Yeah, I mean, how do you deal with it with your team? I mean, people must be panicking to a certain extent, like looking at their friends losing jobs, unemployment 9.7%, unemployment in the Valley 15%. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary. Really talented programmers, developers are out of work.
Yeah.
I'm assuming in Colorado it's worse than the Valley, or is it similar?
It's similar, I think. I think it's probably similar. I mean, the thing about I feel like I'm very fortunate in that none of my startups have not been able to get the support from new investors or existing investors. So in other words, they're all going, which is great. In fact, some of them are just gangbusters. I mean, Tesla's off like a rocket ship.
Sure. But that came close.
I mean, talk about a challenging company to build. I mean, building a car company in any environment is a hard job.
Right.
Doing it in this environment is
extraordinary.
Oh, that's out of control.
Yeah. Well, I remember I sent my check in for Model S.
Right.
And so they gave the pricing. Now, I'm a big fan, obviously, and Alon's on the board of Mahalo and an investor, so we're pals. But I love the Roadster so much. Like, I can't even... I drive another car. I'm just like, what happened to the gas pedal? Like, it doesn't respond. I drive the Corvette now. I'm just like, this car sucks. Like, it's not going anywhere.
Do you have the Sport or the regular?
I have the regular. I have signature number 16 there. I'm sure you have Founder Series. You have Founder Series.
Yeah, Founder Series, exactly.
Yeah, so anyway, inside baseball, I see that Model S is coming out. So I'm like, I got to support Tesla. I send 2 full deposits. So I'm like, I got to support my guy and support you guys and the whole thing. And I got my numbers. And when I sent the checks, the week later or 2 weeks later was the Valleywag story. That was like, oh my God, they have 8 weeks of cash left. And I said to my wife, Jade, I was like, well, I guess that was a good investment. But I had a pretty good feeling it was going to pull through. And I got my reservation numbers for the Model S. Now, I'm not Founder Series. You have Founder Series. But do you know what numbers I got? Number 1 and number 85. Amazing.
That's amazing.
I have Signature Series number 1.
That's amazing.
Which I don't know what to do with now, because now it's like, it's the same thing with having a low model Tesla now at the 16. What am I supposed to do if I crash that thing up? I'm destroying one of like...
You have something that's going to go into the museum at some point.
Exactly.
I know. It's cool.
So now that I got 4,000, how many miles do you have on your Roadster?
I drive mine a lot, so I'm at 5,000 or 6,000.
I just broke 4.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, God, I think when I get to 10, I'm going to put this thing on blocks or something. But that's too much fun to drive.
Yeah.
So how could you do that?
You got to drive it. Just drive it. Yeah.
And the other thing with the car is there's no engine or something like that. So moving parts. It's made of carbon fiber. This car could last 100 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to change the battery, but everything else
is. I mean, it's a very. I mean, electric cars are much simpler than gasoline cars.
You just take that whole little whatever it is out. How do you keep people motivated? I mean, people must be distracted. It was really distracting, I guess, September to March. I had my own ideas about it, but how do you try to keep people focused on building a product and not panicking and not worrying about their jobs? Did you have to do layoffs at all, or resize your staff a little bit?
We didn't actually. I think the lesson I've learned is, just keep your company as lean as possible.
Right. So you were lean to begin with.
We were lean to begin with. We actually had staffed up during the medium days, and when we decided to change our strategy, we did make a change in employment count. Right. Because you want to make those as soon as possible for both the company's sake and the employee's sake. Right. And so by the time the recession collapsed, or the economy collapsed, we were actually quite a lean company. So we've actually been growing, which has been good
time to be adding staff.
Great time to be adding staff.
Amazing the high quality people who are available today and reasonable about what their expectations are as well. I mean, it's not like you have 4 offers coming in and you're chasing people who are.
What's weird is we always find good people you always have to compete to get good people on your team. True. And even today, the people we're hiring are incredibly great. I mean, we're super excited about the new guys we have coming on, and they all have competing offers. And
these are people in the Valley or Boulder?
Both.
Both, yeah. So what's the breakdown of the size of the company between Boulder and the Valley?
The Bay Area office is the one that's growing. We still add occasionally in Boulder, but the one that's really growing in the Bay Area. So it'll be 6 people in the Bay Area and 25 in Boulder. I have a magic number of 30. If you go over 30,
I find that
life is hell. Right,
yeah,
as a CEO.
I agree.
Maybe I'm not good at it or whatever it is, but I just love small companies, and so 31 for me is still crossing the line, but I can function.
I totally understand what you're saying, because I think what it is the number of personal relationships you can have with people. It breaks after 30. Yeah. When you get to 40, 50 people, you can't know what's going on with their lives. You only have enough time for small talk, having lunch with people, meetings. And right around 40 or 50 or 60, you start seeing people in your company who you don't really know. Yeah. And as a CEO, you might even know their names because they were hired when you were on a trip, and you come in and like, who are you?
Exactly.
It's very hard.
No, I make a point of, I have these one-on-one meetings with almost all my staff. So anyone who has a direct report, usually, even if they're a low-level manager, I'll have coffee with them once a month. Yeah. And you can do that with 30 people. Right. Right. You have 15 to 20 coffees a month. Right. Right. That's fine.
Right. 50 coffees, not so much.
Not so much, exactly. Yeah. And I'm traveling and stuff, so it really becomes really hard. And it's also, I just think the culture when you're that size is awesome. Everyone's gunning for the same goal. They're
no
not
dead weight.
Thinking about politics, no dead weight. I mean, it's
no
great.
EORs, no clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. And how did you raise the money during this really bad time? You raised it, I guess, 2 or 3 months ago, which means you must have started 2 or 3 months before that.
Sure. Yeah, so it's a great question. So one of the things we did was we spoke to our inside investors, and we said, look, this is not a great time to go raise money. We had a good discussion around that. What should we do? And they said, well, why don't you reach out to some folks you know, confirm that, and then we'll talk about it. And what I did was I called the folks I knew in the business, and I had the good fortune of knowing a lot of these folks. Right. And
check the temperature.
The first sign I knew that something was wrong was all these VCs had plenty of time to meet.
Yeah, come by.
Everyone had time. Right. And that may sound like a good thing, but actually, I'm pretty experienced entrepreneur and raise a lot of money. Right. VCs don't have time when they're investing. They are very, very busy. And what I found was, if these guys have too much time on their hands, it means that they're not investing. Right. And so that was kind of the general feeling I got. And we got a lot of excitement around what we're doing, but I didn't see anyone. There was
really hungry.
There was no urgency in any of these conversations. And so.
And to close the deal, you really do need to have a sense of urgency and a marketplace and a little bit of competitiveness.
And the thing is, VCs are happy to meet if they've got nothing else to do, and it's kind of like the learning annex for them. They get to learn what's going on. And I'm like, I'm not the learning annex. We're either here to raise money or we're going to move on. Right. So that was really fortunate for me because we spent a couple weeks doing that. Right. And
well, at least you didn't spend a couple months.
Well, probably a month. Because it takes time to get these things together. And
how many you meet with, like 10 people, 5 people?
No, probably. I mean, I just know a lot of these folks. So I'd say 15 to 20 people.
So you do the entire tour of Sandtail. You're doing 3 or 4 meetings a day.
And these are all quick ones, and
generally half an hour to an hour.
Yeah,
meeting.
Exactly right.
They book an hour. You're out of there in 45.
Exactly.
Sometimes it goes an hour 15. Sometimes 30 minutes.
And you can gauge very quickly whether or not this is. I mean, I think
How do you know if people are interested? I have my own techniques, but how interested they are.
I think what I've always found, everyone talks about these, everyone likes to play games and negotiations and blah. People who are interested are interested.
Right.
Like they are excited and they are engaged.
So
and
enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm that really is, they something clicks in their brain. You can see that.
You connect with them.
Exactly.
They get the aha moment that you had
exactly
when
right.
you started the company,
and that's what you want your investors.
The religion.
To do.
They get the sort of religion. They've seen it. Yeah.
And what happens is I think a lot.
But you said also questions.
Yeah, that
so
they're digging
people who
in,
are not interested, they ask one question that's just like, what's your business model or what's your plan on China?
Yeah.
Or you have an international strategy, like some generic question, and they're like, okay, good.
Yeah.
And they're not even paying attention during the question being answered.
Exactly. And I think what happens, in this environment, when I warn any entrepreneur, is this is the worst environment, I think, to raise money, not because of the economy necessarily. I mean, obviously the economy is the driver, but investors right now, a lot of them are actually excited to invest if they really had the freedom to invest. But not all of them, the LPs, the limited partners, are not that excited about capital calls.
Right.
The money's just not moving through the system, and of course they need to look after their existing portfolio.
Right.
So
they're circling the wagons in some cases.
And so what happens, I found, was there was a ton of maybes.
Right.
And there's, in my world, there's three kinds of answers.
Right.
The best answer is yes.
Right.
The next best answer is no. And absolute worst answer is maybe.
Right. It's a disaster when people
say
maybe.
And I
think maybe really means I am indecisive, and you wouldn't want me as an investor anyway.
Exactly right. And I got about 8 maybes. And I was like, okay, that's bad.
That's really bad.
And it doesn't happen with me. I mean, these guys know me, right? So they don't do that. But I just don't know if they had. I don't know.
It's probably because they're in a little bit of shell shock right now.
Yeah,
they don't know if they can go to their LPs and do a capital call. For people who don't know what a capital call is, venture capitalists don't actually have the money. They basically get a commitment for the money from what are called LPs. LPs are limited partners. They represent things like CalPERS or Yale or Harvard's endowment. They basically invest money for a living. They have these huge endowments, and they give a little sliver, maybe 1%, to venture capital. So when the venture capitalists do an investment, they actually say, oh, remember you promised $100 million to my fund? We need 6 of it right now for Medium, or we need 5 for Mahalo, or we need 50 for Twitter, as the case may be. But those LPs are suffering as well because they got wiped out in the stock market, although they're probably feeling a little better now.
Yeah, they're feeling much better now. And I mean, the good thing about us is we had a strong syndicate, incredible investors, Spark Capital out of Boston, Commonwealth out of Boston, and Appian out of Denver, that basically I had the conversation with them and said, I can really take this out on the road, or we can come up with something that could work with the investors.
So a reasonable valuation.
Reasonable valuation.
You're not trying to pump it up and double the last valuation.
Exactly. Let's create a financial structure that sets this company up for success.
Right.
And
sounds to me like sideways, like a B+ round or something.
Exactly.
Which is what a lot of people are doing right now.
Yeah, and I think it's completely acceptable to go to your existing investors. I mean, Tesla went through this a few times where we had to make a decision of, do we go out for an external fundraising or do we look internally, and we did that quite a few times. You just got to make the right choice at the right time. Right.
And right now, with the market the way it is, investors, if you go sideways in valuation, so you raised your money at $20 million or $50 million, whatever it is, not you guys, just a person, an entrepreneur watching, to go to them and say, listen, we could get a little more runway here, we'll get where we need to go, put $5 million more in at the same valuation, it becomes less of a negotiation, easier for them to go to their limited partners and partners in their group with and just sell it internally.
Well, I think what I always love about inside investors is they know the story. Right. They know how good it is, or they know how bad it is.
Right.
Right. And so the great thing about that is when you can be honest with your investors and say, look, this is how good it is. Right. And in OneRiot's case, this is how good it is was the question. Let's figure out the right timing on when we would do an outside round.
Right.
And the great thing about it is, I didn't have to make the sale on the business. It was really just a negotiation of what the financial terms were going to look like. Right.
Well, that's fantastic. So Sam X10 says, has the recession had any impact on your business? Sounds like fundraising it did, but you're pre-revenue essentially, so there's no big impact on it, I guess. Cost of doing business is cheaper.
There's good stuff about this recession. So I had a startup in the 90s, which was actually really hard because money was free back then.
Right.
And you had 50 competitors driving the price down to zero on anything you were trying to sell.
Right.
Now you're in a place where you've got a high quality product that's differentiated in the market. People need it.
Right.
Your competitors are really limited. You know, there are competitors in real-time search, but all of us are looking at building a business through this period, not giving it away for free and, you know, all that sort of stuff.
So the API calls without maybe your logo on them, somebody like New York Times might actually pay for.
Right.
So that could be actually a real business.
Exactly.
So is that occurring now, or is that something just we'd be considering?
We'll be able to talk about things next week.
Oh, right. Okay, I forgot. But that would be a pretty good business model. Is if I keep the logo on, I get it for free, or split revenue, or a more custom deal where
Sure.
yes. Well, I'm not speaking out of turn.
But I think the point is the recession helps and hurts you. It hurts you if you need to raise funds,
right,
or your customers are out of money.
Yeah.
But it helps you in that you don't
Less
have to
competition.
you don't have to worry about the competition.
What do you think the state of the economy is right now? And I sort of saw this mess coming, but never thought this bad.
Yep.
And I didn't see a recovery coming, and certainly nothing like this. What do you think is going on right now?
I think things are much better.
Right.
The problem with that statement is much better doesn't mean good.
Right.
Right. Things are much better though. I think the most visible. So I have a restaurant, right? So I've truly know what people are spending on a night-by-night basis.
So is there a trailing lead indicator in there?
It's a great lead indicator.
Alcohol consumption.
No,
Bottles of wine?
Dessert. What is?
Got to be one of these variables. Tell me.
Wine is a good example, and it's not whether or not people are drinking wine. It's what are they spending per bottle. If you think about a bottle of wine, you can have a bottle of wine for $30. You can have a bottle of wine for $3,000.
Right.
How do you feel that night? What do you want to spend? Is really reflected in how much money you want to spend on a bottle of wine.
It's a Rorschach test.
You're still going to have an appetizer. You're still going to have an entree. You might or may not have dessert, but your wine is completely up to you how much you want to spend.
Right.
And we've very recently, just probably the month of September, seen a pickup that isn't as where we were before, but a significant pickup from where we were.
So people are ordering the $200 or $300 bottles when maybe they took a break.
I wouldn't say they're up there anymore, but
right.
they're instead of ordering the $30 bottle, which is our restaurant doesn't even really sell that many $30 bottles, right. But they would find the $30 bottle on the menu. Right. That was sort of March time frame. That was terrifying.
Right.
And then you go up to now where people are in the $70 to $100 bottle and
right.
they're comfortable with it. You know, that's a good sign that people are starting to appreciate good wine, appreciate what they're getting, and able to spend.
Fascinating. And that's just happened when? The summer or
September?
Really? So it's just September.
Just September.
And that must relate to them watching their 401ks or their stocks come back a little bit.
Huge. I think it's so much has got to do. I mean, most of these folks can afford the bottle of wine. It's like psychologically they're kind of shutting down their desires, so to speak. You know, this is a culture where we do appreciate the finer things in life, whether it's a T-shirt or a bottle of wine or a trip to Europe or whatever.
Right.
You know, everyone has their version of what luxury is. People appreciate it here, and I think the past year has been a case where everyone just tightened down and aren't buying anything. And that's just not sustainable. It's going to come back to some degree, not probably to the craziness that was before that, but to something in between.
And it doesn't need to be that crazy.
No.
To be honest, that was a little bit
It's
weird.
not healthy. Yeah, it's not healthy.
It was also weird. It was like, who are these people taking homeowner loans or buying two homes? It was like...
No, so I go to Burning Man every year, and Burning Man last year was the sign of the apocalypse. I mean, companies were spending, not companies, but people who were wealthy individuals were financing $500,000 skyscrapers in the desert that would be built and then torn down in a week.
Wow.
That's a lot of money to spend on. I mean, I love Burning Man, and I love them for it. It was a great experience, but you didn't have to spend $500,000 on that. I mean, literally, it's up and down. No one even knows it existed a week later.
I mean, it is art, but still.
It's to an extreme that made no sense, because the art in the years before didn't have that sort of
I mean, if somebody spends $10,000 building some incredible art piece, or $20,000, you're like, well, they got their friends together. Maybe other people buy, big vacations to Hawaii. Maybe this is their way to do it.
Exactly. And I think that was the years before, and then last year just got out of hand. And that was, 2 weeks before the big Lehman Brothers collapse. Yeah. And you could sort of look at it and go, wow, is it just me, or is this things gone out of hand?
Right.
And they clearly had gotten out of hand.
Interesting. So if people want to work with the company, they want to use the API, who do they contact? Where do they go?
Yeah, well, just help them send an email to me. It's Kimbal, Kimbal, @ OneRiot.com.
Right. And you're hiring right now, so what are you looking for? You're looking for developers, PHP?
We're looking
database?
Only looking for search engineers. So guys from Google and Yahoo.
Search engineers.
We're looking for the top relevant search engineers in the world.
Really? And so the value proposition for them coming to OneRiot versus Bing, which is spending money like it's, has no value, or Google, which has an incredible cafeteria. How do you get people to join your company? Is it the stock options? Is it impact?
I think, first of all, Bing or Google, that's just a job. I mean, if you want a job, go work for those guys. If you want to be part of something really exciting, come join us.
Right.
So that's one thing. Then the stock options, obviously, there's an upside with us. There's probably a modest upside with the other players, but there's a major upside with us.
Right.
And then finally, the really exciting thing is we're on the cutting edge of search. And if you really are a top search engineer out there, you should be at the cutting edge of search, or you're not a top search engineer.
That, by definition. So there you have it. If you're a top search engineer, Kimbal at OneRiot.com. Thanks for being on the program. And I'll thank the sponsors. This is a bonus episode, so I don't actually charge the sponsors because we're just doing so many episodes. But thanks to WebSpy and DNA Mail. Everybody loves DNA Mail. Audible, where everybody does their homework, and you go to Audible Podcast, right? Podcast, singular? Yeah, singular. audiblepodcast.com/twist, and they give you some incredible deal. And Ustream, which does a great job, and they did the TechCrunch 50. They did an amazing job there. And anything else? Other announcements? What's Friday? Do we have who's on the guest show Friday?
Joe, Local Bacon.
Joe from Local Bacon's going to be on Friday?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So Joe from Local Bacon is one of my favorite TechCrunch 50 companies. This company is awesome. Their idea is when you go to apply for a job, you ever put you put postings on Craigslist sometimes?
Sure.
And have you ever actually received what you get in? And
it's insane.
It's insane. You get like 500 resumes,
exactly.
half of which are from recruiters or people from India or want to sell you outsourcing services. And how long does it take to just find the people in there? It's like 1 out of 100 is actually what you're looking for. So what Local Bacon does is you put your job up there for free because you're a qualified company, because you have venture capital backing. So they vet anybody who wants to post. Got to be a real company. Then when you apply, if you're that search engineer, you say, I'm going to apply to this job. To apply for a job, you have to use a credit. Credits are $1 each, and you buy 20 credits for $10, whatever. So when you apply for a job, it costs you $1. It's a credit, it's like virtual currency. But let's call it $1. What do you get for that $1? Well, you get to be, instead of in 400 with a lot of noise, you get to be one of 40 or 30. Then, when they review your resume, you know that they've looked at it, and they give a disposition to it. So they say, either pass or not qualified because of the year's experience, or we liked your resume, we're keeping it on file, thank you. So basically, they created workflow so you, as a person applying for the job, at least know where you stand. Right. And for somebody who's an employer, that's no big deal. If you're only getting 40, and then you have all the workflow there, it's an incredible company. I'm going to try to invest in it. But they did a great job at the TechCrunch 50 conference, so they're going to be on Friday.
Yep, they're going to be on Friday.
Any other announcements?
5 passes, platinum passes to give away to
five
to the Santa Barbara Music and Tech Festival.
So well, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, they're good for both days, all the parties. They're like.
How much does that ticket cost? Like $1,000? A lot.
I'll check.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to be doing This Week in Startups. We do them on location now. So This Week in Startups will be at the Santa Barbara Music Festival. I'm going to be interviewing the CEO of Last.fm. You've probably used Last.fm. Very cool. Looking forward to that. And we'll be going up there doing it live. So if you want to come with us as part of, anytime I do a speaking gig now, I say I'll do the speaking gig, but you got to give me at least 5 or 10 tickets to give to the Jason Nation, the fans of the show. So if 5 of you, right now, thank the sponsors, you know who they are, at DNA Mail, at WebSpy, at audible_.com, and at Ustream. If you thank the sponsors on Twitter and just put Music Festival in there, we'll pick 5 people and give them the tickets. So you go to the Santa Barbara Music Festival with me, you can roll with my posse, you can roll deep into the tech conference, and it's for the whole thing, right, Alex?
Yeah, it's all the parties.
All the parties, everything. So this is like, these are worth like thousands of dollars probably. So come with us. If you, Santa Barbara's like, what, an hour north of here or something? It'll be a nice day. We'll have a good time. We'll hang out. So thanks again, Kimbal. It's awesome to see you.
Making me jealous. I want to go to that.
The music thing.
That's right.
This is a great way to use your leverage. Like I'm always like trying to get like, oh, you want me to speak at your event? Okay, what can I extort out of you? You know, like because I don't need to be there. I'm busy. I got a kid coming, and so we try. It's my way of trying to lower the number of speaking gigs that we raise the requirement.
Gotcha.
It's not working. That's the problem. So like I told Tyler, like I'm only going to do speaking gigs when they give $10,000 donation to the school in Brooklyn last year. And this one I'm not getting paid, but a lot of them we get paid. And I said, I don't really want to do this one in this country. It's like too long. And just tell them like $10,000 and 2 first-class tickets and they comes back. He goes, "You're not going to believe it." They say yes. I'm like, oh. Yeah. Okay, so I got to go to that country. So it's actually sort of like
now you
perceived
can't
value.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, it's worked out really good because now when I go to events, I see all the fans of the show, and they're all 20-year-old entrepreneurs, 25-year entrepreneurs. It was amazing. And actually, they came out live last week for a couple of you guys came out last week for the show. So we'll see everybody this Friday, right? 2 shows in this week.
Yep.
And 2 shows last week. Yep. Does that mean we're doing 2 shows next week?
I don't know.
I got a job. We got to get back down to 1 show a week. All right, we'll see everybody next time on This Week in Startups. Bye.